What's up, everybody? I go by Saying Fresh, and welcome to the channel. Now, as a kid growing up, I played a lot of JRPGs, Final Fantasy series, Legend of Dragoon, Chrono Trigger, so many others. And to this day, I consider them some of the best games ever made. So after hearing Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has been getting all kinds of awards and praise.
Clair Obscur. Clair Obscur.
Clair Obscur, Expedition 33!
And learning that the developers were inspired by those classic JRPGs, I knew it was time to finally dive in and see what the hype was about. And give my personal thoughts as a Final Fantasy fanboy in my first ever review / final thoughts video. Whatever this is, I don't know. You get the idea. And kind of just as a disclaimer, I'm not a professional reviewer. I'm not a journalist. Don't do any of that. I'm just your average guy. I work 9 to 5 just like everybody else. I'm a father and I just enjoy video games. I've loved them since I was a kid. So I just wanted to give my thoughts as like the average reviewer and see what you guys think. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 released in 2025 and was developed by Sandfall Interactive, founded by former Ubisoft developer Guillaume Broche. I'm probably saying that wrong, I don't know. Supposedly the game was developed by a team of 33 people, which is where the name Expedition 33 comes from. I don't know if that's 100% true, but for my own personal headcanon, that's absolutely true because that sounds pretty cool. The team was heavily inspired by JRPGs they grew up playing, and you can see that influence everywhere. The battle menus clearly take inspiration from Persona 5. The visible turn order for characters and enemies feels straight out of Final Fantasy X. Quick time attack mechanics instantly reminded me of the Legend of Dragoon and Lost Odyssey. Even exploring the overworld carries that classic Final Fantasy feel. Clair Obscur is just constantly paying homage to those games. I'll try to keep this as spoiler free as possible, but just a heads up, there may be very light spoilers here, so proceed with caution. The game takes place in an alternate dark fantasy version of France. The world has been shattered by an event known as the Fracture. You begin in the isolated city of Lumiere, playing as Gustave, voiced by Charlie Cox, and just as the city prepares for the ritual called the Gommage. Every year, a massive entity known as the Paintress paints a number on a monolith. Anyone who is that age or older is erased from existence. So it's basically like getting erased by Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, but instead of dust, it's rose petals. After the Gommage, volunteers form an expedition named after the painted number, setting out to destroy the Paintress and end the cycle. Gustave is part of Expedition 33, and this instantly brought back memories of starting the Summoner's Pilgrimage in Final Fantasy X. I was hooked instantly. Now the introduction, those first 20-30 minutes that set up the story, they hit hard. Like so hard. I was genuinely fighting back tears. Not just because of how heavy the Gommage is, but because I could tell I was in for something special. And that opening is a masterclass of setting tones and expectations for the rest of the game. And with that, the expedition begins. You leave Lumiere to destroy the Paintress, and next thing you know, you encounter the main antagonist. A mysterious old man, voiced by Gollum himself, Andy Serkis. I won't say much about him, and I don't want to talk too much about this situation, but man, he is pretty terrifying. And from there, the game starts to truly open up. The world of Clair Obscur is beautiful, but it is deeply unsettling. It constantly feels familiar, yet completely out of place. The blend of elegance and horror is intentional, and the game never holds back on color. Every zone feels vibrant, even areas that are technically just ruins. I really found myself stopping constantly, not because I had to, but because I wanted to, just to take it all in. Every region has its own distinct vibe and personality. Exploring the world feels less like navigating a game map, and more like walking through a living, surrealist painting. The creatures reflect the same tone. The main enemies, the Neverons, are deeply unsettling and carry a dark, macabre presence reminiscent of Dark Souls. Somehow even the stranger designs, like literal mimes, feel like they belong. Yeah, there's mimes. The game is French. And on the lighter side, you meet the Jestrels, the peaceful inhabitants of the continent. And I do love these guys. They're probably my favorite. They, along with characters like Esquier, provide much needed levity. The game knows when to be heavy and when to let you breathe, and the balance is handled beautifully. Now, the music. Oh my goodness. It's so good. One of the best soundtracks I've heard in recent years. And as you know, Final Fantasy wouldn't be Final Fantasy without the music of Nobuo Uematsu. So music matters a lot to me, and this soundtrack absolutely delivers. It's composed by Laurent Tessard and Alice Duport-Percier. I'm sorry once again if I butcher those names, but they made a masterpiece. Alice's vocals in particular stand out. They add this haunting, almost mournful quality to key moments in the story, perfectly matching the game's themes of loss and grief. Just have a listen. Okay, now my favorite thing about the game is that it has multiple battle tracks. Each region has like at least one or two different tracks. I love them all. Here are some of my favorites. All these songs just do a great job of adding to each area's identity. And while other tracks feel almost theatrical and fun, and I found myself just vibing and dancing to it.
Time to fight, fight to win, fight again and fight for the win.
But what really impressed me the most is how the soundtrack understands the legacy it's stepping into. You can feel the influence of Nobuo Uematsu, and it's the kind of music that doesn't just play in the background, but helps define moments, characters, and emotions. You can hear echoes of the greats without it ever feeling like an imitation. The soundtrack confidently stands on its own. Combat in Clair Obscur is turn-based, but it feels like a true evolution of the genre. Menus are fast, transitions are smooth, and every attack includes quick time inputs that reward good timing with extra damage. On defense, you can dodge, jump, or parry enemy attacks. Parrying completely negates damage and lets you counter, and once you get the timing down, it feels incredible. It adds a level of tension and engagement that most turn-based games just don't have. And each character also has unique mechanics. Gustav's builds charge for massive attacks, while others rely on stance systems or positioning, encouraging real strategy rather than mindless menu selection. Leveling up lets you assign stat points Dark Souls style, and the Picto system clearly inspired by Final Fantasy VII's materia system. It adds even more depth. You can experiment, min-max, or keep things simple. It's flexible without being overwhelming. Now, I do have some small nitpicks about the combat. Parrying is just so rewarding that dodging often feels unnecessary. I wish more enemies force you to mix defensive options, and occasionally visual clutter made parry timing a little harder to read. Again, these are very minor frustrations, but worth mentioning. Also, I do have some nitpicks for the story. There were moments, particularly in Act 2, where certain story reveals didn't hit me as hard as I expected, and it took some spotlight away from your group of expeditioners, but that's entirely personal preference, and it didn't ruin the experience. Despite those minor nitpicks, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 still tells a powerful story about death, grief, and how we confront mortality. It explores acceptance, denial, duty, and defiance, and by the end, it made me reflect on how I deal with those themes. That's what great storytelling does. And this is clearly a game made by passionate developers. The art, music, combat, voice acting, and facial animations are all incredible. I remember saying on stream, there's no way this is an indie game. It feels AAA. And to top it all off, no season passes, no microtransactions, no paid cosmetics, none of that. Just a complete, heartfelt experience. You know, growing up, what I remember most after finishing great games like Final Fantasy, Ocarina of Time, is sitting through the credits and just thinking, damn, what an experience. And as an adult, those damn moments feel very few and far between. So I'm always searching for that feeling, and Clair Obscur gave me that feeling again. So Clair Obscur definitely deserves all the awards it gets, all those accolades, all the praise. It's well deserved. For me, it gets a solid 9 out of 10.
Clair obscur,